I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite
podcast
on the Citadel.
Podcast that just met you, and some of the things that we say may sound a bit crazy, but I'm about to introduce my co-host, so join us maybe. My name is Tucker from Talking About Games, and with me is Scott from BioWare Babbling.
Hi, guys!
I couldn't hear if you said anything. It sounded like
No,
you cut out,
hi,
so I'm
guys.
going to pretend you said something. Seeker
Hey there.
from... Yes.
Tucker, that
I
was
still don't
way
know what to
too
say that you're from. I just kind of like...
Yeah, I think
Tucker,
you went so high that your microphone didn't really pick up your voice.
That's fine. That's fine. No, that was Tucker, that was way too smooth. That worked way too well. I
Did
was
it?
not expecting that.
Cool.
So EA Play Live was piss fucking weak.
Yeah, so EA Play happened
I
a
will
certain
say-
amount of time ago.
I will
I
say
can't remember
my
specifically.
review was a merciful lack of sport ball, or minimal amount of sport ball, and oh god, what was it called? I'll check that. There was a cute game that looked really cute, and I was like, oh, this is nice, but I can't. So I suddenly blanking on what it was called. Hang on, I'll check. But Lost in
Okay.
Random. Lost in Random. That's what it was. Lost in Random looks good and interesting.
Yeah, that game has a cool concept, but I don't know if that's going to be a game that I'm going to play too much.
Well, here's the. I'm certainly intrigued enough to see more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the the way that it just looks.
Yeah, the art style is definitely a selling point for me. And when they discuss it's like, oh, sort of very fairy tale like, and I'm a sucker for all that. And it kind of reminded me of Alice the Madness Returns in a certain way, a certain vibe, as it were. And I love that game to bits. So
Yeah.
yeah.
As well as
Yeah.
like an evil Psychonauts.
Yeah, I can vibe with that. So that sounds good.
Okay.
Psychonauts 2 is coming out, I think, next month?
Is it? I have no idea.
I
I
have
think
no
it
idea.
comes out in August.
I've never actually played the first one, but I hear good things.
Oh, yeah, no,
I'm
I haven't
aware
played
it's
the
beloved.
first one, but the Psychonauts 2, I may get that, especially because it's going to, it's probably going to be on Game Pass.
Most likely.
So, but also at the EA Play Live was, I think the only good thing that was actually kind of shown, or the only thing that I was looking forward to much, was the Battlefield trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Not Dead Space.
Oh no! Well, I mean, I was expecting and
You were
liking
the
Dead
one that
Space.
was crowing about, oh, it's Dead Space, it's gonna be Dead Space. Certainly gonna be Dead
Oh yeah,
Space.
no, I'm excited. I wanted to be shown a little bit more because...
Yeah, because it was nothing. Nothing!
Well, no. It looks fun. Or not fun. It looks good. It looks... Oh, hi. My dog just made noise. It looks...
Hey, Dupa.
kind of... Like, it looks beautiful from the little bit that was shown. But I was hoping to be shown a bit more as well as a release date. I thought that this was something that they had been working on a bit more, or at least were a bit farther along in it, just theory-wise.
Bear in mind,
Yeah,
I
you would
adored
think.
the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star trailer they did for the first Dead Space.
For Dead Space 2?
Was it for Dead Space 2, or was it the first
It was
one?
I think Dead Space 2.
Okay, whichever one they did. I loved that trailer just for how fucking creepy and atmospheric it is. I just wish... Do you remember when game trailers were doing more than just just gesturing to something iconic and then showing a title card, when they'd actually try and set like tone or establish location or character or a story or something? Because it feels like every single
What do you mean? I think trailers
see
have
now,
vastly improved.
maybe
I would
like
say
a
trailers
graphical
have
fidelity,
improved.
but I'm talking like in terms of setting up. Here's the thing. Here's as an accurate impression we can give in about 30-minute to a minute window. That's the point of a trailer. And sometimes that's very effective with very little, and sometimes you need a little bit more context. That's why I liked the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star trailer, because the whole it's the Ishimura, isn't it? The ship.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
so
USG Ishimura
is a character in and of itself. It is pretty much, outside of all the necromorphs, the beating heart of the whole game. Because let's face it, Isaac isn't exactly the most verbose of characters, rightly so. He fits the game he's in, but the whole point is exploring this derelict ship filled with nasties. And what that trailer does is it highlights the utter desolation of space that surrounds you and the hell that waits you on the inside, and it's very evocative.
Oh yeah. Oh,
well,
for
yes,
sure.
but I would say that a point of the trailer is to sell you on the product.
But what did it sell me?
How? What? What do you mean?
Just say, for instance, I'm aware that Dead Space is a thing. Now, bear in mind, I have played Dead Space. But say I'm someone who's intrigued by the premise of Dead Space. I'm like, okay, I hear they're remaking it. Let's go watch the trailer. What does that actually fucking tell you?
Oh, well, I mean, that's a teaser trailer. It's just a little bit of a tease of the graphics.
Announcing
and
that
mostly
it's
pretty much a confirmation
any
of
of the
it.
necromorph is mostly in like the fog in the back. Is that any sort of action seems to be mostly off screen?
Sure.
And it's just like, oh, Dead Space.
Sure,
All I'm
but
saying is
I
that
mean,
it's not a strong trailer.
it's an engine. It's like all it's kind of doing is just showing a little bit of the engine.
And they couldn't just
which
have
I think
shown me Ishimura?
They did. Well, they showed the
they
technically
showed
they
a
did.
corridor
So
that
technically
you could
they did.
barely see through the fog and the sort of flashing orange light.
But isn't that Dead Space in of itself? Closed in corridors, a feeling of claustrophobia, not being able to see what is in front of you or what's around you, not knowing what's around the corner because
Here's the thing.
it's not big open space. It's a maze of a ship.
Because this is the best comparison I have, think about the trailer for the Callisto Protocol. Now what that does is introduces you to a setting and sort of eases you into the tension, and then reveals the big nasty that is the dude is locked in a cell with.
Well, yes, you're going to do a trailer. You're going to do a trailer differently for announcing a new project
What I'm
compared
saying
to
is that has
a
effort,
remake
one doesn't.
of a loved game.
Well, no. Here's the thing, though. I actually kind of have to agree on Tucker on this one, mostly on the grounds of I have never heard of that game that you just brought up.
Okay.
I mean,
So
do you
it
remember the
makes
Mass Effect
sense.
Legendary
It's made by
teaser
the
trailer?
same people. That's why it's.
True.
I say
Fair,
the original
but
Dead
here's
Space.
the thing. It's a new IP.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new IP. It makes sense where they need to show more about the trailer, make it more enticing for someone to, entice someone and inform people, like, this is the premise of it and stuff like that.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to
That makes sense for a new IP. But the thing is, this isn't even a new Dead Space. This is a remaster.
Well, remake is kind of how there's.
Yeah, it's supposed
Yeah,
to be.
that's also one thing I want to get to in a second. There's some interesting implications about that, but it's nothing new. It's technically, we know the story of Dead Space and stuff like that. You really don't need to. You more need to just reveal, hey, the Dead Space remake is coming out, and especially things like word of mouth, press coverage, and things like that is going to do most of your work.
Yeah, but you could make.
So
that
why
exact
would you
same-
spend?
And
You can make that
So
exact
remember
same
the-
argument for.
but do you remember the teaser with the Mass Effect Legendary Edition? It was just the characters, just in a 4K models that
Yeah,
were
but that was
just looking up. But that made the
considerably-
entire community lose their shit, and that's just the point of it. It didn't show really much. It showed the characters that we already know, and it didn't say anything about the characters. It relies on the fact that you know these characters and
Well-
already know their story.
Well,
And you're
hell,
seeing them in a cleaner model or a
Well,
much...
hell, if you just look at look at the Legendary Edition of Mass Effect, they didn't even announce it with a trailer. They originally did it in a blog post. And people lost their shit. And that's all, and all that blog post was like, hey, here is what we're doing. These should be your expectations of, like, here is kind of roughly what we did with it. And they let it run wild. So to a certain extent, why do I need...
Yeah, EA has said that the thing they seem to be mostly basing this on, in terms of, like, development or the product they're aiming for, is the Capcom Resident Evil remakes. Which is fine, because, those have been very well received, and, they definitely are very much a hit with the fans. However, if you look at the remake, the Resident Evil remake, so when they were first announcing, we're remaking the Resident Evil, because it wasn't even a given that they were remaking the whole series at that point. Yes, it probably was, but, it was a likely thing, but it could have, if they'd done a really shit job of it, like, dare I bring up the remastered Silent Hill edition? The world's biggest punchline. Yeah, so it could have been like that and been killed in the water instantly. But no, what they showed for the trailer for that was, quite a lot of the game and the new models and stuff. And
oh, sure.
I think there's definitely multiple... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just feel that there's a lot more... you could have made more of an effort to make it more... to ease me more into the world and the mindset of Dead Space as a franchise and a story than what we were given. I just want higher... I have higher expectations than EA is prepared to give me. Basically.
I think some of it is also... I think, one, there are multiple ways you can market your game. And yeah, there's definitely other games who have done remasters who have definitely showed more. I can agree with you on that. I think there's also... I think the one thing, if you look at more on the EA side of things, there's a point of diminishing returns of... Okay, well, if we make a... How long was the Dead Space trailer? Barely even a minute?
It was about a minute.
Yeah, so about a minute long. And it's like, okay, so we can do this minute-long video, or more like what you were talking about, like with Capcom and the Resident Evil, trailers, which are like 3 or 4 minutes long. Well, if we do that, we're quadrupling maybe not quadrupling, but you're at least doubling, if not tripling, the price of creating that trailer. And if you're getting... But the thing is, if it only gets the same amount of press coverage as that 1 minute video that doesn't reveal very much and stuff like that, well, then why would I go with a 3 minute trailer if a 1 minute trailer is gonna net me the exact same result? There's not really a point.
Some of my concern that was with the Dead Space trailer was that it didn't give a release date, which means that we don't know how far into the project that they actually are.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2 Remake trailer, the announcement was announced with a release date.
That's true.
So they had a product that they knew they could ship at a certain time, or at least had a time frame. So they had a workable project. Like, they could show it.
Yeah. That's also a fair point.
So, there's a bunch of different things that come into play with trailers, and it's all about just trying to sell the product.
Yeah.
But a product that did get sold to me is Battlefield 2042.
Ooh, yeah.
That Portal trailer.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
Well, I was about to say, I did kind of want to finish. I did have something on the remake, though.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's weird that they're calling it a remake. And then I noticed it's in the Frostbite engine.
Yep.
As far as I'm aware of, I do not know of another game. I do not know of a game that has been remastered with Frostbite. I don't think there have been any.
I have no idea about that.
I don't think there have been any, let alone like ones that have been remastered on Frostbite that were on on a different engine originally.
It'll be I mean, I'm imagining that the game's going to look really, really good, and that and they are going to update some of the mechanics to like better match with like some of their original ideas, or like again, kind of like what they did with Resident Evil 2 remake. But I'm excited because I never finished Dead Space 1. I knew the story of it, and I played through part of it.
Yeah.
But I never finished it. But I played Dead Space 2 a lot. I played through that one, I think, like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. But it's just like, I mean, that's cool that they're doing it. And it's interesting, though, because if they're doing Frostbite and stuff like that, I wonder if EA threw more money at the Dead Space remaster than the Mass Effect remaster.
I don't know about that, but
yeah,
I'm thinking if this may have been a response to the Callisto Protocol, or not directly a response to that, but if that was part of it.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know, but yeah, it very interesting implications that it's not only being remade, which implies that it's more than just a remaster, and 2, the fact that they're also doing it with Frostbite. I don't know if it means that they're throwing more money at it, or it may have just been a decision on the developer, like, nah, we want to try to remaster this on Frostbite. So, I'm very curious to see how much they're actually changing with this. But I interrupted. You were talking about Battlefield. Go.
Oh, yeah. So, that was probably the only other actual big thing at the EA Live event, is the Battlefield 2042 trailer, which when they first announced, or with the first trailers with Battlefield, they said that they were going to announce a new game mode at EA Play, and that it was something that they feel like Battlefield has been something that they've wanted to do for a while, or that they feel fits within the Battlefield gameplay of it.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be Battlefield Portal, and that looks so fun. It's Halo custom games, pretty much.
Yeah, no. Okay, yeah, no, that's a pretty fair way to describe it. Yeah.
And it has a few maps from Battlefield 1942, Battlefield Bad Company 2, and Battlefield 3. And like the Battlefield 1942 maps, they didn't have destruction, but with 2042 in this game mode, they will have destruction.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of cool. And it'll have vehicles, weapons from those times, or from those games. And it seems like you can create random game modes. In one of the trailers that they showed, there is like quality versus quantity.
Yep.
A team of 4 with 2042 weapons against a team of 32 of
weapons from 1940.
Yeah, World War II Nazis.
Yeah.
And there's one that was like 20 EOD bots versus 1 tank.
Yep.
I absolutely love just those ideas right then and there. And we know that when the community is given something, especially a creative tool, the community will always create something that's better than what the developers could.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and they can customize it. Well, and it feels to me, and this is just not only with, I think, like, Battle 42 definitely showed this, but I think Battlefield Portal confirms it, is just the idea of, like, they're really going all out on the, y'all do some loony-ass shit when it comes to the Battlefield games, we're gonna fucking encourage that.
Yeah, we're gonna make a game mode about that pretty much.
Yeah, and like we want you guys to go absolutely bonkers with how crazy you can be. And it's just like, and that's always one thing that's interesting, that they're really leaning into that, which I think is cool. I'm a little disappointed that they don't have anything from Battlefield 1, because
they'll probably add more stuff later on.
Yeah, it's the only Battlefield game I ever played because I'm a sucker for World War One. So I kind of hope they bring more stuff like that, and that would be hilarious if it's 4 versus or 6. I think it was 6 versus 32 for World War II, World War II versus 19 or 2042. I'm really curious to see what happens in is it 50v6 if it's World War One or something?
Well, the most that a lobby of Battlefield can have is 128. So you can have a 128 lobby set up with that.
Which, God, that's gonna be so nuts.
That's gonna be fun. But it's only if you have the Xbox One or PS4, you will not be able to have 128. It will only max at 64.
So it has to be a PC thing. That's it.
PC or Xbox Series and PS5.
Yeah, I mean, you would just need something with that power. Yeah, you would need... Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, this is actually definitely a Battlefield. You can tell that they have taken time to try to revamp the series and their production and all that shit. And it's starting to show. They're showing that the break that they took was well worth it.
And it's soon. It's October.
Yeah.
Which October also has a few other games I'm looking forward to. I think Far Cry 6. Yeah,
I will not be buying any more Ubisoft games. Not until they actually take action in the stuff we now know about regarding the behaviour of some of the employees there.
You mean Activision?
No, I mean Ubisoft, because the Ubisoft stuff happened.
Yeah, Ubisoft also has issues.
The Ubisoft stuff happened, and basically nothing happened. A couple of people got shuffled out of the company, given enough time to, get, full benefits and whatever. So that happened. So apparently all this, the HR people that ignored the sexual harassment allegations that knew all the people who were responsible are still mostly in the same positions or in a slightly different department or any of that bullshit.
Shall we move on to the next topic?
Yes.
Which is...
I thought that would be a nice little segue. Nice being the operative word.
Depressing segue, here we go. Choo-choo.
Yeah. Can I just say, just off the top, can companies fucking stop hiring abusers? Please.
Yeah. So, one thing, just to let everybody know, trigger warnings for things like sexual assault, rape, also technically suicide as well.
Racism.
Just that one too. Just
all the isms, basically.
Trigger warnings ahead. If you guys want to bow out now, we get it. It's totally fine.
I mean, there'll be things in the description that should be in the timeline, so then you could just pop to the next subject.
Yeah. Which
is understandable. It's all good.
If you need to bow out, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
They, starting off with not as bad stuff, one of the things that they would apparently do is go, cubicle to cubicle, just getting drunk.
The cubicle crawl.
Yeah.
Now, forgive
when
me.
I worked in the industry.
Forgive me, but isn't the purpose that I haven't worked in the industry? But if you're crawling under the cubicles,
they were crawling under Wait, how does that work?
I don't know.
Every
That's
cubicle that I've seen is connected
crawl
to the floor.
No, Seeker. It's like a pub crawl, but they're going from cubicle to cubicle instead of bar to bar. That's what they mean by. That's what they mean by a cubicle crawl.
Because I got a different end of the stick where I was thinking, are they crawling under the cubicles to I don't even know what they're doing.
But
before we go into any more details, we should probably explain to people what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
So
the state of California.
Yeah. So the state of California investigated Activision and Blizzard
for 2 years.
Activision Blizzard for 2 years. They have, and essentially their report of their findings was a incredibly toxic work environment that had everything from groping, sexual assault, some cases of rape, and kind of one of the big tragedies to come out of this.
Suicide.
Yeah, there was one, I don't think she was one of the true higher ups in the company, but she was mid to high up in the company.
Yeah.
In the company during a business trip, because of the sexual assault, and everything was so bad, she took her life during a business trip. So, and this isn't rumor mill stuff. This has come out of an official report by the state of California. So, just to get everyone at least a very TLDR sort of deal. There's a whole bunch of details like the cubicle crawls. Take it away, Tucker.
Oh, well, what I was going to just say about that was, when I worked in the industry, that there was beer or alcohol in the bill. Like, there were some beers or stuff like that were in the break rooms and so on. But it was very much of, like, being adults.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know about every single person, but at least the people that were on my team, I never saw them drunk. And, like, even if they did, like, have a beer or something at work, they would just have, like, one, and it would be on Friday night or at the end of, like, a long day if we had a big task to run through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But, so, like, seeing this stuff where it's like they went cubicle to cubicle, to me, that is, like,
insane.
I couldn't imagine doing that.
Well, the other thing that came
the gaming industries, they do feel light of how you can just kind of walk around a bit, and it's kind of open and social and all that kind of stuff. But, like, going from cubicle to cubicle with alcohol with that, it's like,
yeah,
that's just,
because here's the thing,
that's just different.
Very much the atmosphere was described as practically a frat house.
Yeah,
and also and I don't imagine that.
Leaving the higher up, mostly male white management were going and playing video games all day, and then leaving their work for most of the apparently seems to be mostly for the black female employees to pick up the slack on top of the work they were already doing. It is just like, just fucking great. And we've already had similar shit with Riot and other companies. It just feels like, I don't know if it was Riot that was the first one to get the proper media attention about it, but it feels like there's a domino effect, and they're going to have to start either cleaning up their act or they're going to get sued to hell and back. And I certainly know what the capitalist corporations are going to prefer. And because if you go after their bottom line, suddenly they sit up and listen and are more than happy to pay attention to whatever changes, quote, need to be made.
I think the big... Oh, sorry, continue.
Yeah, I was pretty much just finished my train of thought there, so by all means you continue.
Well, the big thing I see, and the big difference that I've seen from Riot, from Rockstar, and a few other studios like that, a lot of the times these have been... I don't want to... Saying these came from the rumor mill discredits a lot of the women who had to come forward.
Yeah, but we didn't have the documents, I believe. We never had the documents before to say, like, this was in detail what happened.
Yeah.
To my knowledge.
Which, I think the big difference is, though, now coming out, and this sucks that this has to be the case, is that this is a 2-year investigation. You cannot question the validity of this when a state agency has investigated this company for 2 years and pretty much has a mountain of evidence against them. And I think the fact that, the state of California is now taking actions against the studio, I think that is going to be the big difference, is where there actually will be hopefully, fingers crossed, some actual meaningful change is that the state of California is just going in and saying, no, this isn't okay.
And bear in mind, the video games as an industry make obscene amount of money.
Oh yeah, no,
Obscene.
they're super profitable.
So if the state of California is fucking with, I say fucking with, I mean from like the corporation's perspective. If they are quote quote with their revenue streams to the degree that they are going to have to pay an obscene amount of money and make changes to the company that you don't necessarily want to make, because of course that's, you know, time and money and more just effort than they wanted to put in, then I can't help but feel that a lot of other industries are going to start getting scared, because forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm not the expert here, but isn't Elon Musk's union busting corporation still very much not being messed with by California? I think he's based in California, right? And
Well,
it's
he
still
was
being
in
messed
California,
with,
but he moved.
by the
He
state.
moved it to Texas.
And
Say that again, Tucker.
He moved it. I think he either talked about it or completely moved to Texas or the headquarters, because of relaxed employee protections.
Yeah, which, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about the cost that would entail just to do that, and he would rather do that than fucking pay his workers a living wage.
Mm-hmm.
Mister, I was raised by I was raised on the money of my parents' apartheid emerald mine. I'm just like you. Fucking hate billionaires.
Yeah.
I'm sharpening my guillotine as I speak.
Anywho, back on topic. With this, like, I'm definitely in the and this is gonna sound a bit Karen of me, and viewers, you know, how you guys want to spend your money is up to you. I was honestly super hyped for Diablo, you know, the Diablo 2 remaster and Diablo 4 coming out. Now, I'm at a point I'm no longer interested. I'm not interested in Overwatch 2. Half tempted just to delete Overwatch off of my computer as of right now, just because, I mean, shit, this is what their money is going to support, is this type of behavior. Rampant behavior that is all throughout the company. Fuck no. Yeah, honestly, no, you're not getting any more of my money.
Activision-Blizzard was already on my shit list for the whole BlizzCon. I think that's how you say the username involved with the whole Free Hong Kong thing and the entire lack of an apology afterwards, or admitting or rectifying any of the mistakes made there. It was just what a complete and total shit show. And yeah, that was when they were first like on my shit list for just the rampant nonsense on display there, and this was just the nail in the coffin. And bear in mind, I'm not like, you know, I was gonna, you know, have a stab at WoW and stuff, because I haven't had a stab at WoW in you know, about a decade. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll totally play it and all the new content just to see what's in there. I'm not touching it now.
Yeah.
Like, by all means, make your own choices, but I can't in good conscience support this anymore. And the real fucking shame for me is that I love the work done by the company Toys for Bob, which are also owned by Activision, who made the Spyro and Crash Bandicoot remakes. Oh, speaking of Crash Bandicoot, did you see the tweet where Activision was suddenly be like, oh, celebrate the anniversary of Crash coming out, and then someone Googled it, it's like, Crash came out in September. In September. Why the fuck are you celebrating it in July except for the reason to try and distract, you know, shaking the keys in the face of the gamers to be, oh, look at the keys, don't pay attention to the sexual assault, just look at the keys.
Oh yeah.
It's transparent, and I guarantee in a month or two maybe we'll be getting like a big announcement, or they'll finally be dropping that Overwatch 2 nonsense that you keep saying is happening.
Yeah.
I don't get Overwatch 2. I don't understand why. Like that and Siege Extraction, the Ubisoft one that's a bit of a spin-off of Siege.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those games, I don't see a reason for those games existing.
Well, I'm not gonna buy them and find out.
I think the big thing that they wanted to do for no idea about Siege, but Overwatch 2 was mainly meant to be a PvE sort of situation.
But why not just expand that into the first game?
Yeah, that's unless they wanted to do some major balances that just it made more sense to make a whole separate game versus overloading the original game. I don't know, but it does. Now that you kind of word it that way, that it is kind of a little weird. That it's just like, really, that's your choice?
I don't understand of it being its own separate game. Like it could be a $30 expansion that you could
had
tack
that
onto
conversation last time. Is that you can kind of separate a franchise into two different focuses, and still maintain focus on each side of it, just with two different teams doing it. I think that's viable if you're making smaller games.
Overwatch 1 is like how's the future content of that game going to work?
Okay, just as a palate cleanser to celebrate a positive dev that at least, because I've been playing their game all day today and it's fucking fantastic, is Disco Elysium. And Disco Elysium was made by a company called Zam, and it's the Zam or Zome, however you say it, but it's their first game, and it's one of the most cleverly written RPGs I've ever played. It's the art style is spectacular. It's funny. It's smart in a way that very few video games dare to be, and it screams, yes, this is fucking political with its whole chest, and I love it for it. My character currently has internalized communism and is now shouting about the proletariat rising and eat the rich and stuff, and I'm so here for it. The last thing I did in the game was roundhouse kick a fascist in the face.
Well done.
Yeah, by refusing to internalize his critical race theory. It was this game is so good and it's so political, and you can only get the good ending if you're a lefty. It's great. If you try and do a fascist cop run, you get the shit ending. It's fantastic. And my favourite part of it was when they won Game of the Year, and they went to go claim their award, and they said, we'd like to thank Karl Marx for our political education, and a bunch of gamers went, woo! They got a bunch of gamers to woo Karl Marx. Fucking legends.
Jesus.
Either way, play Disco Elysium. It's fantastic, especially since they just released the final cut of it, which has even more content, which is the one I'm playing at the moment, and it's just so good.
Oh yeah.
Now, isn't Disco Elysium, isn't that only on PlayStation?
Nope, they just released it on Switch, Steam, PS4, Xbox. Pretty much everything has it now.
Oh.
I'm not sure if it's on Stadia or not, but it might be. I don't know.
Man, Stadia is trying.
Yeah.
And apparently there's another... Steam is coming out with...
Your own
Steam
like...
Deck,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to do well.
Here's the thing. There's no reason why it can't. There's no reason why we can't have, the Steam Deck
Valve
and the
won't
Switch.
support it.
Because fundamentally, like, Nintendo and games mostly made for Nintendo consoles, as a rule, go after a very different crowd than most of the games on Steam. So they're going after a whole different market just with a handheld console. So there's no real reason why it shouldn't work. I've known people, because I, as some of you may know, I refuse to shut the fuck up about Baldur's Gate 3, but most people are just like, oh, I don't have the capacity to play Baldur's Gate 3, which is, absolutely fine. I'm not begrudging anyone that, but they're saying, like, you know what, if I did get a Steam Deck, I could have, the capacity to play the games I want to play on Steam, but with, taking up less space of a computer and with presumably less of the price involved.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's going to be the biggest key is how much does it cost? Because, like, sure, playing PC is great, but, like, the PC I currently have, that's a $1,200 machine right there.
Yeah.
So
mine
that's
was about
also
the same, and I managed to cut a few corners by borrowing a screen off my mother. Because I was just like, oh, okay, that'll save me, like, one expense. So.
Well, yeah, for me it was the exact same thing except for my keyboard, And I think that's kind of the thing is, like, if it's in that roughly $300 to $400 price range where it's like
sweet spot where it's like affordable and you can now have access to the Steam's entire library.
Yeah, I think
that is a huge competitive edge.
Yeah,
especially in comparison to Stadia, which had the potential.
Stadia.
Was, had the potential to be something, but there was no games being released on it, so everyone just abandoned it because they're just like, well, there's nothing to play. It's just...
Well, there was also way more technical issues to it than that.
Well, I don't think that this is going to be a success, just because.
All right, then we will.
I feel like making a console, even for Steam or stuff, like it's getting into the console
market
race is too late. It's too late to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Nintendo did it with Switch. I don't see what the...
Well, Nintendo has had handheld since the original Game Boy.
True, but also they sort of operate on entirely their own schedule in comparison to the other console releases.
True,
they don't need,
and
they know they don't need to compete with Xbox and PlayStation. Yeah, lots of gaming outlets like to pretend they're in context, but in actual, they're going for a completely different market, so they don't need that. So whereas, PlayStation and Xbox are essentially like... They overlap a bit too much to be, for lack of a better term, healthily existing in the same space. They overlap too much in the market, so they're constantly competing with each other. Nintendo's just doing its own thing. It's for the most part, it's perfectly content doing its own thing. So the idea of like the opposite end of the spectrum, where you have the Switch, which is because I've got a Switch Lite, which is a fantastic little machine. I love it, and I love the games on it. There's a whole realm of JRPGs in particular, that I was never exposed to, that I've now been able to play because of I got a Switch, and I'm very grateful for that. And so you have that end of the spectrum, where it's more smaller games, sort of less intensive games, your Animal Crossings, your Pokemons, that kind of stuff. And then if you've got the other side of it, which is the more high performance stuff like Baldur's Gate 3 or anything else that they're saying it's going to run. So people will be more than happy to fork out for that, because they're like, oh, that means there's a whole load of games I can play to the capacity a computer does. Obviously, if the tech actually supports that, that's another debate entirely. But I'm saying, in the principle of the thing, if it works, then that's the market they can corner. And there's no real need for it to overlap with anything else. Because if it's only its own corner of the market, then that's fine.
Well, also part of the thing is supporting it, because that argument, for Stadia, it is quite literally streaming a game. You can play, like Destiny 2. You can play Destiny 2 4K, 60 frames per second on your phone, on the bus with Stadia. Like, that was supposed to be some of the major selling points of it is, it's streaming, so you can use any hardware.
Yeah, but you have to...
people don't care because it didn't really get supported. There is no reason to go for it.
Well, we also in the United States didn't have the infrastructure necessary. They overestimated how good our internet infrastructure was to actually pull it off.
Yes. Well, and I feel like Microsoft is working with some of that stuff with xCloud, but Steam has also tried to make multiple things before, like the Steam Machine or Steam Link or the Steam Controller, which all arguably failed.
Yeah.
Just because they weren't supported.
Yeah.
Like, Valve put out the Steam Machine and the Steam Link, but didn't really do much more with it. And, like, even with the HTC Vive, I love the Vive. I fucking love doing this VR stuff, but the Vive doesn't feel like it, like, Valve didn't support it themselves. The virtual reality community made games that people would want to get VR for. It wasn't until even recently with Half-Life Alyx that I think you can even play on the other VR headsets. It's just like, I just see the Steam Deck going in the same vein of it's going to be cool, but I feel like it's not a market that really Steam can go for, because all of their people already have powerful computers and everything like that, and that's going to be what they continue to gravitate towards at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think another part of it as well is that if you just look at just releasing a console, period, it's an incredibly risky endeavor. You know, a lot of people don't realize is that the vast majority of consoles that have been tried throughout video game history have failed. Or, even if they were a success at the beginning, eventually did die out. So, at this point now, really all we have left are the few surviving companies who have become so mainstay enough that they could just, you know, that they will pretty much live in perpetuity because they're just that well known, you know, and that's really Nintendo.
Speaking of well-known companies with streaming services and gaming, how do you feel about the Netflix announcing they're getting into games and apparently have stated they're not charging extra for access to the gaming services they're going to provide?
So what do they mean they're going into gaming?
Yeah,
like
I've never
develop games, or are they going to be streaming?
I will find the exact corporate release Netflix gaming, because I've seen it. They because if it is a streaming platform where it's like, oh, you know, just stream games through Netflix, it's like, well, fuck, that's convenient considering I already have Netflix. Yeah, depending.
I think it's gonna have this. It's gonna have the same problem as Stadia. Granted, this isn't gonna be an issue if you live in like South Korea that has the best internet in the world, but you live in the United States or anywhere, you know, like if you live in the United States that doesn't have the internet infrastructure necessary to pull something like that off.
Okay, so this is an article.
You're kind of shit out of luck.
This article is from CNET, so my apologies. So just let me have a stab at this. Veteran streaming service Netflix is expanding into video games with plans to offer ad-free games to mobile devices, no extra cost to subscribers as early as next year. Netflix plans to enter the gaming world won't be the first, but could shake up the industry for other competing services and subscriptions as well. These games, blah 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 blah. Because also Amazon are doing Amazon gaming now, so yeah.
Yeah, Amazon's been trying to get themselves into gaming, I think, for a while.
Yeah.
Like, that's always something that they poked
We'll start
around
with ad-free games for mobile devices like phones and tablets. It will also be experimenting with creating games based on existing Netflix franchises.
Oh, that's going to fail hard.
Well, it depends. It's going to be very funny if Netflix takes over the Castlevania franchise, considering how good the...
well, I was going to say, like, Castlevania is already a video game, and they've made... There's already Stranger Things video games.
It's just, yeah. Also, speaking of...
and are they going to make the next Witcher game? Are they taking it from Cyberpunk?
No, they
or from CD Projekt Red?
I don't think so. I think they still have the license for it, and they're going to have the license for a
Nah,
while.
Netflix is like, hey, we saw what you did with Cyberpunk. We got this.
We got this.
We got this.
You guys saw what we did with Bandersnatch. We'll be fine.
Jesus.
Because did you guys ever play Bandersnatch?
Dude, Bandersnatch was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. It was great.
But another streaming service that
At least it's one
I
you already
feel is
fucking
actually
have.
a better choice. Because I feel like I find it more and more difficult to rationalize keeping my Netflix subscription.
Mm-hmm.
But Loki
was
kind of cool.
great.
It was kind of cool.
Okay, I'm just gonna get this point out of the way. Spoilers
So
for
again,
Loki
spoilers.
show. The main takeaway I saw from my neck of woods in my corner of the internet was disappointment at the finale of Loki because Loki and Sylvie got together. Now, here's the thing. Both of them were confirmed gender fluid, bi/pansexual. Either way, they're queer as fuck is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Hence, if they're in a relationship,
Also queer.
yeah, they have a queer relationship because they're queer. Have you seen the way Sylvie sits? No straight person sits like that. Okay? Can confirm. Look at your bisexual friends, all your bisexual people. Look how you're sitting right now. You don't sit like that if you're straight, okay? So, the idea that... Because a lot of people seem to be... I don't mean to poo-poo the idea because, of course, yes, depicting, actual same-sex romance between on the big screen is a big deal, and they should be doing it, and they're being really slow because Disney is being really dragging their heels on this, and it's a pain in the neck, and that's where the orders are coming from, not necessarily Marvel itself, but because that's the thing with the show is that they set out a friendship between Loki and Mobius, and they had great chemistry, and at the end they have a hug. Now the thing is with Loki, I thought that was his first step to really being a selfless person because he had a genuine friendship with someone he wasn't romantically interested in.
Well, I mean, he called him a
the ship
friend.
is like to say he is.
Like,
yeah, and he gave him a hug. Like Mobius offered to shake his hand, and he went for a hug. That's amazing character development for someone who was, who's tried to stab in the back every other person who tried to be close to him.
and then Mobius doesn't recognize him at the end.
I know, that's because he seems to be in a different multiverse than the one he was in, because the multiverse is now
and
fractured.
the theory about why Mobius just straight up doesn't recognize
Because it's not
Loki
his Mobius.
is, well, but why they don't recognize a Loki to begin with is that Kang just kills all the Lokis because the Lokis are what start everything.
Yeah.
And so he just gets rid of the Lokis so they don't become a problem. So or at least I thought that was kind of one of the theories. But I feel like the romance with Loki and Sylvie, while it makes sense for Loki to fall for himself, that makes sense for that character and all that kind of stuff, I just felt like it wasn't necessary, really.
I get so some people seem really divided on the...
There didn't need to be a romance between them. There could have been a friendship with it. I just felt like a romance.
I could have seen the relationship
needed.
going one of two ways. Either they're bickering siblings that are too similar to each other to get along, so because they remind each other too much of the other one, so they're constantly clashing until eventually they can understand each other. Mm-hmm. I could have seen it going that way. I don't mind that they went down the romance route because let's also get this out of the way. If Loki has variants that are clearly different species than him, such as Crokey, or Alligator Loki, or whatever variation of that you want to refer to.
It's not Croaky, because he's not.
I think
Croaky
is a better name. I will stand
by
this.
But it is not a crocodile.
I don't care.
And crocodiles are very different from gators.
I don't care. Then it stands to reason that Sylvie most likely is not his. It doesn't have the same DNA as Loki. So.
Oh, I mean, it wasn't even any of that.
I'm just saying, they're technically operating the same role in the multiverse, as it were. However, just the idea, because a lot of people squeaked out, it's like, oh, she's his sister. It's like, no. But yeah, so that's I can understand people having, because I'm trying to debate because I thought the show was very strong, very good, and I got what they were going for, and the whole setup for the multiverse was spectacular. I mean, they introduced the concept in episode 1. I was like, oh, that's the play for the next 10 years. Is it multiversal war? Bring it on.
And the next show is What If, which are, different multiverse things.
Oh, just speaking of stuff that's coming, that's anticipating
exciting.
In the Marvel pipeline, I looked this up because I was just thinking about what the fuck Loki was going to do in the situation he's in, stuck in the TVA, and no one knows what's going on. I thought, what if he has to track down the Sorcerer Supreme to figure out what's going on? Because bear in mind, he never met the Sorcerer Supreme, but he might have seen himself meeting the Sorcerer Supreme in the TVA file he had. So he might have just thought, oh, I'll go find that guy. And I looked it up because this did happen in the comics, and there was one continuity where Loki is the Sorcerer Supreme. And I was just like, wouldn't that be spectacular if it's like, oh god, not another one. I never thought I'd be so sick of meeting myself.
Nah, I think it's going to be just Doctor Strange grabbing Wanda and Loki and being like, yo, we gotta talk.
Yeah, the memes.
Y'all,
the memes were all
y'all have
glorious.
fucked some things up.
Everything of Strange trying to wrangle Sylvie, Wanda, and Loki was great. Because now we have the two biggest clues about where Multiverse of Madness is going.
Biggest clues they've
announced. What I mean, they've hand wrapped the movies for us, and we've only got to unwrap them to figure out what the hell they are. But so we have Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, which they've said for a while is going to be the first horror movie in the MCU, complete with.
I thought that changed. I thought that when they got a new director, I thought they said that they toned back the horror a bit.
No, it's Sam Raimi, dude. It's the Evil Dead guy.
Well, sure, but I thought. Because I remember reading a while ago that Doctor Strange 2 was going to be like a horror movie, but then I thought that over time, I heard that they were pulling some of the things back a bit.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can hold Sam Raimi back. You can only channel him. So we have first MCU horror, we have the Multiverse of Madness, which is pretty in and of itself. We now know Loki's going to be in it. We pretty much firmly established Wanda's going to be in it. So it seems to be either those forces kind of just... God knows if they're going to be... They're probably going to be in conflict in one way or the other. But trying to figure out what the hell's going on there. Either way, that's going to be the one that's just... What the hell do we do from here? And the other one is Spider-Man No Way Home, which of course has been rumoured for ages. Not only that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are going to be in it, but people like Charlie Cox are going to be brought in as Daredevil. Now,
I think the Charlie Cox one is not confirmed.
Here's the thing though. All the actors I just mentioned have sworn till they're blue in the face they're not in it. They're not in it. They're not in it. They're not in it.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. It's a mighty coincidence that at the same time Tom Holland was seen walking around sets and Christmassy sets, excuse me, in New York, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were both seen in New York, and Charlie Cox was also seen in New York around the time that reshoots were rumoured to be happening in New York as well. I'm just saying, that's a mighty lot of coincidences when three of the actors involved are all Brits. You know, who I think either mostly live in either LA or the UK.
I think I heard your tinfoil hat crinkling there a little bit.
I'm just saying. I tell you what. The funniest thing though is if it does end up that they're all in it and they were all just lying because they didn't, they could feel the Mickey Mouse snipers on their forehead if they dared say anything. I pity the poor soul who was genuinely not in an MCU movie after they've been rumoured to be in it, because they could literally swear that I swear on my life, on my mother's life, on everything, I'm not in the MCU, and no one's going to be able to believe them because they obviously, if this does all end up being that they are in Spider-Man, that is just going to end up being like, nope, we can't believe you, so we're just going to assume you're in it.
Yeah. Well, like, one thing as well is we do have precedents from Disney that people lie. A great example is
Kevin Feige has also said, don't believe everything you read on the internet. But I can't really.
But I read him saying that on the internet.
But some of it is true. So it's like, Kevin.
Well, like, not only that, but like Ian McGregor for the Obi-Wan series, he lied for years, saying that, I don't know anything about it,
it's not happening, I don't know anything.
If they were to reach out to me, if they were able to reach out to me, if they did reach out to me, I would accept it. I mean, he lied years about it. And then he's just like, I had to lie to everyone. And we don't know how long they were in talks for that, or if it was an on-off thing, or who knows. But, so it's like, there is precedence out there to kind of go like, oh, really? You guys aren't a part of this?
Not to mention all the Star Wars stuff in general.
Jonathan...
Because, even stuff like the Mandalorian finale for the last season, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it, but Luke fucking Skywalker shows up. None of the cast were told that it was Luke Skywalker because they filmed all of Mark Hamill's stuff in post, obviously far away from all the other actors. So they had no idea who the Jedi who shows up to take Grogu away to train him was supposed to be. I think they were told, I don't remember the character's name, but they were told it was someone who had died in like the prequels or something. I don't remember the character. I'm sorry, I'm not that much of a Star Wars nut. But they were told that it was someone who died in the prequels. They were just like, okay, that makes sense. Whatever.
GG chicken.
Yeah. So when Luke Skywalker shows up, everyone was surprised. But Mark Hamill. Everyone but Mark Hamill.
I mean, Jonathan Majors lied a bit in an interview. They asked him if Kang is going to appear in Loki.
Oh, he didn't though.
And he said no.
Because it wasn't Kang, it was He Who Remains.
And it wasn't
he told
Kang.
The truth. But he's also playing Kang. But Kang, I don't think, is appearing until Ant-Man Quantumania.
Kang does appear in the finale, but as
that's not
just as a statue, but also as a little puppet thing that he makes appear.
Oh yes, but that whole sequence is great. Props.
Jonathan Majors killed it.
To Jonathan
Majors
for holding
when
half the episode,
playing as Kang. He absolutely dominated the screen. He dominated as, like, people were worried, like, how are you going to follow Thanos?
Yeah, that guy right there.
The way that Jonathan made, like, the way the elevator just opens and he's just sitting there, he's like, he just waves a little bit and we know that guy's about to fuck.
And I love because the contrast between like the reveal of Thanos for the first time and the steady drip feed over like 10 years of what his deal was and how seriously he should be taken as a villain. And this guy just being a guy at the end of time, just be like, hey, here's the deal. And laying out as like, oh, you think I'm bad? Wait till you meet the other me's. And it's going to be like, oh no. It's like, I've been many things.
Also,
a conqueror. It's like, I see what you did there.
something that's kind of cool is that something I noticed is that this finale didn't really have this big climactic fight or something like that we expect with a lot of MCU finales. The entire final episode was almost just talking.
Yeah. The only fight
and
in
it was fantastic.
Was more
It was Loki
emotionally
and Sylvie.
fraught than it was an actual fight. Because...
But yeah, like it wasn't a big, bad, like they're firing the red laser and
the
heroes firing the blue
quote-unquote bad
laser.
guy
Like,
didn't even fight back. Like, are you gonna beg? I could. And then she just stabs him in the heart. And just...
Well, I mean, it feels like he definitely planted some of the things in their head of like, Sylvie, do you think you could trust him? And then
he was
making points about Loki.
I think at that point, when you know what's going to happen for all time, everything that ever happened or will be, up to that point, and up until that point, everything is in the air. Until that point where he says, oh, we've crossed the threshold, he knew with absolute certainty everything that was going to happen for the beginning of time to the end of time. That was it. That was where time was stable. That's millions and billions of years of universe that existed that he was all presumably somewhat conscious for.
Well, I mean, when he starts, he says eons ago in the 31st century on Earth, and it's like, hold up.
Also, you know who Kang the Conqueror is related to, right?
Yeah, and which he didn't say that his name is Nathaniel Richards.
No.
He said like a scientist.
Yeah.
And so he never said
his name
name
beyond He Who Remains. And technically, Miss Minutes, who is Tara Strong and is great, even if she scares the bejesus out of me.
I bought a Miss Minutes t-shirt that's her like waving and says, "Hey y'all."
Yeah. The jump scare of the fucking decade. Hey y'all!
That was fantastic. That
I never
no
wanted
one was
to
expecting.
kick a clock in the face more than I did in
But
that moment.
did you notice that Miss Minutes has more than 12 little notches on her thing? But she has, I think, 16.
Yeah, I didn't count, but I was like, that's definitely more than 12. And just because it's so refreshing to have Loki, and oh god, yes, Richard E. Grant as classic Loki also stole that episode. It stole the episode that had a lovable alligator Loki in it, the bit off Tom Hiddleston's hand.
Gator Loki's still my favorite.
Okay, but just I loved seeing their trying to think of the right word here, but in particular like classics Loki's dilemma, because he got old. He escaped and lived as a hermit, and the second he was like, no, I wanna see my brother, I wanna see Asgard, I wanna do the right thing, he got snatched up by the TVA and dumped at the end of the universe.
Well, I don't think it was he wanted to do the right thing. I think it was that they were fine with him being alone on a planet because he's not changing
from his
or doing anything.
He missed his brother. That was what he wanted. And bear in mind...
And then he wanted to get off the planet. And once he wanted to get off the planet, the TVA is like, okay, no, we can't have you leave the planet.
Yeah, but the crux of it is that this Loki got old enough and was alone enough to reflect on everything he'd done in his life's choices. And I genuinely think, like, when he means he missed his brother and he wanted to see him, I genuinely think he wanted to make amends and have a relationship with him of some capacity, you know, like actually be a family with him. But didn't happen because the TVA fascists just decided, nope, you don't get to make your own choice, that's already been made for you. So when he gets to the end of time, just like, even if we try and be better, we're sent to the end of the universe to die. How fucked up is that? And the whole first episode sets it up wonderfully, where it's just like, how do you respond when the arbiters of time and the universe designate you as the villain who loses and is only destined to bring pain and torment to everyone you care about or come across or in contact with? That's insanely fucked up thing to process, let alone try and, wrap your head around. But because of classic Loki, having the time and the length of time he must have done, bear in mind, he's a god, he must have been living for at least a few centuries, if not millennia, on the planet. Someone did the math, it was like, as in Asgardian years, Loki's pretty much a teenager. So it's like, that suddenly he makes a lot more sense in terms of maturity level.
What would you have done with the ending? Like, would you have killed He Who Remains, or would you have taken over?
I don't think I would have. I personally don't think I could have survived to the degree that Sylvie survived. And from Sylvie's perspective, I would have been dead like a million times over. But from Sylvie's
what would you have done? Would you have taken? Because I would have. Like, if that was an opportunity, I would have taken over it rather than do that thing of giving free will.
Given the choice, I would kill him, because the choice is, it's free will and life finds a way. It's chaos and it's chaotic, but there's freedom in that. Or life is stagnant. Life is just a stagnant citadel at the end of the universe. Here's the thing, but we're looking at this as like a binary choice, because that was what Sylvie forced it to be. Loki was at that end, and I genuinely
trying
think
to wait
he
for
was
a third
right.
choice.
He was trying to say, look, there's got to be let's talk about our options. There's got to be another way to figure this out.
However, just because there's a third way third option doesn't mean that third option could be any better, because if they're stalling, I mean, who knows, the longer that it takes, that it could be more damaging.
Well, I'm just saying that I think there could have been a third option if they had put their heads together and actually talked about it. But with Sylvie living the life she's lived, how she's had to live, I think the only thing driving her at that point, what she woke up thinking about, what she went to sleep thinking about for her entire life, all the eons of it she lived, was that I need to kill the person who did this to me, and the person responsible, the person who did that to me is the person in charge of the TVA, who is He Who Remains, so he has to die. That was it. And then as soon as she's killed him, she just crumples, because like I said, her entire life was built to this point, and she has nothing else. She has no...
Well, no, I feel like she realizes that killing him didn't actually...
Yeah, it didn't solve anything, it didn't change anything, but because she couldn't see past that, essentially her life's ambition, that she had no plan afterwards and no idea what it would happen. She was just like, it's that whole thing of step 1, kill He Who Remains, step 2, ? Step 3, profit. She didn't even have any concept of an after for that. It was only the goal in mind.
Yeah.
And that's why Loki was trying to reason with her, because it's just that, no, I understand the fallout of consequences more than you, because I've seen it, I've had to live it. Because he had a life he lived. He grew up with Thor, he made his choices and suffered the fallout of it, losing again and again and again and again, until eventually he was killed by Thanos, and that was his life. And he observed that not only in the life he got to live up until Avengers, but then he witnessed what would have been the rest of his life in the TVA. It was just like, that was it. That was the extent of what I was to do in this universe as designated from on high. So he starts to then come around that there's someone like me, there's someone who understands, there's a whole bunch of them, and they're all mostly awful. Like, Kid Loki was great, and I bet you dollars to donuts he's coming back, because they just so happen to cast a character who's going to appear in the Young Avengers, and it's just like, yep, the Young Avengers are totally coming. So to see this person just come to their own conclusion of just, I can't go on like this, I have to change, but we have to, stop the TVA, that he has to facilitate his change, but he does change. he's a Loki who changed, and that's mind-bending because that's not how the universe is supposed to work from you know He Who Remains perspective. And I thought the show was tremendous, especially, and I'm going to bring this up again just for the scene where they actually did say it, the way they portrayed Loki's bisexuality and the way they talked about it. I know he didn't exactly flirt with apparently there was supposed to be more scenes where he was having alien sex in the first episode with lots of different people. I was just like, well, I would have liked to have seen that personally, but you know, maybe in season 2. So, but the conversation they have where they're just like, I recognise you're like me, and I recognise the queerness in you is really common for queer people. Like, a lot of straight people that I've come across are just like, oh, I had no idea you were queer. But, like, most of the queer people I come across are just like, oh, yeah, I knew. I had an idea. You gave off a vibe. It's just because, you know, a lot of queer people have just learned ingrained behaviours to just signal to other queer people, like, you know, oh, I'm like you. I'm, you know, I understand you. So the fact that they immediately twigged with each other what the other's deal was, at least in that respect, I just really appreciated, and they stated it pretty, you know, I don't know how anyone could have interpreted the ambiguity there. Also, I think there's a lot of people out there, especially on the internet, who don't understand how bisexuality works, where it's like you're attracted to multiple genders, like especially like presenting. So if like a masc presenting Loki and a femme presenting Sylvie get together, that still means they're queer.
Yeah.
You know, you're just being misogynist now because you wanted to get with Mobius, and that's what you're projecting. Oh, I'm gonna get so many hating people on the internet. Be like, yeah, you're wrong.
But I would have taken, like, with the thing of, would you take over for the TVA, or would you, quote unquote, like, give people free will? I would, at that point, with everything that had gone on and the way that He Who Remains explained everything, the concept, like, you're pretty much shown that the concept of free will doesn't actually exist, that it's not a thing.
Yeah.
And if trying to act like it's a thing at that point is a losing condition, because as He Who Remains said himself, kill me, I'm just going to come back, because there was going to be a multiversal war where a version of him wins and creates the TVA, and they'll be back here. Like, that there is no option to give people free will or anything like that, because that's just not a thing.
But that's because he
So,
only
like,
presented
the
them with
only
a binary.
option...
That's the gambit.
But-
he even said it himself. That's
But
his play.
But that can be the isn't a binary. The option is take over the TVA
Or kill
or
him.
do anything else, and things will get fucked. Like, they could have just sat there and talked, and things would, like, he presented a binary, but there was only one option, and the option was to take over his position. That is the actual only option, because anything else is a losing condition that,
However,
from what he's saying,
He Who
just
Remains,
causes a repeating cycle.
Just to put a pin in that. He Who Remains said that, oh, now we crossed the threshold, I don't know what's going to happen. So how can he know?
Yeah.
Like, bear in mind, obviously, it's like, oh, if this has happened before, but if suddenly it's like, oh, free will is happening now, I don't know what's going to happen, then it's possible that with, you know, the Marvel Universe being what it is, there's many powerful people. We've got, you know, the Eternals, we've got the Scarlet Witch, we've got Doctor Strange, we've got, you know, endless amounts of Lokis coming into it. And it's just like, are you telling me there's not one of these fuckers that could throw enough of a wrench into Kang the Conqueror's
plans that they couldn't figure out what his deal was, or in terms of like actually combating what it was that the bad versions of him want, so to speak. Maybe it's just a hug from his dad. Maybe it's just a hug from his parents. That'll do it. That'll calm him right down.
From what you're seeing, like, you can see that there are worse versions that do come out, so it does feel like one of those things where it's bad, but other options are worse, and that can't happen.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, then you keep going until you find a good solution. That was what Loki was trying to find, but Sylvie was just like, nope.
You can look for something, that doesn't mean that that thing exists.
But it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
That's a false argument. That's
all I mean to say is that you're
the having proof of non-existence isn't, or is something of like, because you can't prove that it's not there. That's not a.
All I'm saying is that there could have been a third solution for it, but Sylvie took the initiative, which I don't.
There could have been like 15 solutions, but I think the only choice is to take over the TVA.
Presented, and Sylvie was just like, "Yep, that's what I've been working my entire life for. That's what's happening." I don't think she really considered because right up until she went to go kill him, she was just like, "You're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar." I don't think it sunk in the entire gravity of the situation and what was going to happen once he died. So Loki,
she was just in pure denial. Like,
yeah.
He Who Remains, I think, was doing nothing but telling the truth, and he knows that he can just tell the truth, that he doesn't need to lie.
I think
because
there's telling the truth and there's lying, and I think there's painting the truth in a certain light to give the narrative that you want. I think he wanted to die by that point, after being alone for eons and having no one to share or talk to. I think he's
wanting that
just
reincarnation.
wanted to end. Functionally, it's like, oh yeah, there could be another one of me, but I don't think, unless I'm proven wrong with later series or movies, that it would be the same one. It wouldn't be him, it would be a variant of him. So I think what he wanted with his gambit was that I want my existence to end. That's why I'm going to bait these two against each other, because I know it's only there's a tightrope walk here, and it's only going to take a smidgen of influence for one of these two to fall off. And Sylvie fell. She fell for it because she fell for the gambit. That's my understanding of what his mentality was. I could be completely wrong, because bear in mind we don't know too much about that guy yet.
There's also a thing of how it was a guy and a girl, and then being tempted by an apple, like a thing that's having an apple, and all that kind of stuff, like an Adam and Eve representation.
I think that's a bit. Yeah, the apple is definitely a temptation thing. That totally tracks. I think them as an Adam and Eve is a bit of a stretch, but especially since they're.
How is that a stretch?
Well, honestly, they're both more serpents than anything. They're the serpent in the Garden of Eden, if anything.
But they're also like at the end of time to restart things. Like they're starting.
They live in ignorance or
timeline.
Take a bite of the apple of knowledge, and they chose knowledge, which is essentially an extension of free will. So yeah, that's what they did.
Well, yeah. Let us know your thoughts, though, in the comments down below.
Oh, and by the way, just to let everyone know, I have not seen a single episode of Loki.
Why not?
I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm sorry.
How have you not noticed the trend that WandaVision finishes? Then we talk about that, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I play too much goddamn D&D. I'm sorry.
Yes, you do, apparently.
But then you should be watching Loki then for inspiration.
There's only like 5 episodes.
That.
You can knock that out in like a day or two.
Well, why don't you come across the pond and force me? Meh.
But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, or if you want to have a bit more of a conversation, we have a Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Join us
also,
on
there are
Discord.
people there.
I ended up running or hosting a game of Crusader Kings 3 for a couple of people in the chat. So if you fancy playing Crusader Kings 3 with some of us in the community, then feel free to drop on by and join our Discord.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But thanks everyone for joining us today.
Hope you have a good
Yeah.
week. Hope to see you soon.
See y'all.
Bye.
See y'all next time.
Bye.
Is Loki something we're going to talk
Yes,
about?
absolutely. I'm going to talk Loki because I have things to say.
Yeah, Loki was spicy.
Yeah.
Loki's definitely been the
Save it
spiciest.
for the actual discussion. Kick
Okay.
the podcast
All
off.
right.
Hit it, Fergie.